then September 28th, that year, maybe the cynical Europeans were right. Maybe this neighborhood is just beyond transformation. That will become clear in the next few months as we see just what kind of minority the Sunnis in Iraq intend to be. If they come around, a decent outcome in Iraq is still possible, and we should stay to help build it. If they won't, then we are wasting our time. Then, on December 18th, we've teed up this situation for Iraqis, and I think the next 6 months really are going to determine whether this country is going to collapse into 3 parts or more, or whether it's going to come together. Then, in January of the following year, he says, I think we're going to know after 6 to 9 months whether this project has any chance of succeeding.
Wait. Now, let me stop you there just to ask you, how many more of these do you have?
How many more of these do I have? I can't, I don't have the higher math.
It goes so over the horizon. You can't see that far.
How many more I have, but I got, you give me the year and I'll tell you what I have.
My God.
He says, okay.
Well, let me ask you this, Victor. Did he ever say what it would mean to win? Because this is the thing that drives me crazy more than anything else is, we'll settle nothing less for victory. And I guess it sort of goes without saying that means figuring out a way to bring all the different armed factions together into one sort of unity government. And yet, there's never any progress toward that. I mean, the Sunni insurgency being brought back in under the Maliki government, that's not happening, and no progress toward that happening has ever been made. Does anybody, especially Friedman or Bill Kristol, do these people ever even say what victory means?
Well, at various times, you've got to acknowledge what he says. He says a decent, stable Iraq. He says bring democracy to the Middle East. He says if there's in 6 or 9 months, he said in April 2006, we'll know whether 6 weeks or months, we'll know whether there's an Iraq there worth investing in the next weeks or months. And then in May 2006, he says, well, I think that we're going to find out, Chris, he's talking to Chris Matthews and Hardball, I think we're going to find out in the next year to 6 months, probably sooner, whether a decent outcome that is possible there. And I think we're going to have to just let this play out. So a decent outcome. So no, they don't do it with specificity.
Yeah, that's crazy. Somebody who gets let off the hook all the time, and just like McCain, has attempted to go back and rewrite history as though we don't all have Google. But William Jefferson Clinton, I remember seeing with my own eyeballs on the David Letterman show about it couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 weeks before the invasion of Iraq, assuring David Letterman, oh, don't worry, it'll only take a week. I'd be amazed if it took more than a week, David. It'll be great.
Yeah, no, Clinton, they were wrong about the timetable. They were wrong about weapons of mass destruction. They were wrong about the cost of war. Wolfowitz said it would be self-financing through Iraqi oil revenue. They were wrong about the number of troops that would be needed. They were wrong about the number of casualties. At one point, Bush said that there would be no casualties. I mean, it's an incredible thing.
Right. That's what he told to Pat Robertson, right? I'd forgotten that one.
Yes.
No casualties. Imagine, everybody, the President of the United States, upon starting this war, convinced himself that there would be no American casualties? Wow. Talk about detachment from reality there, huh?
Yes.
That really is incredible. Now, I'm led to believe that you guys have an appendix on this new book, Mission Accomplished, or How We Won the War in Iraq, and this is about the expert speaking on Iran.
Well, and when they publish a new mystery book, at the end of it, they give you the first chapter of a sneak preview of the next mystery book.
Right.
So we felt as a service to our readers, we printed a special bonus section, which includes a sneak preview of our forthcoming book, The Experts Speak About Iran. And if you'd like a sample or two, George Bush said in 2005, the notion that the United States is getting ready to attack Iran is simply ridiculous. Having said that, all options are on the table.
Yep.
Then Henry Kissinger in July of 2006. If Tehran insists on combining the Persian imperial tradition with contemporary Islamic fervor, then a collision with America is unavoidable. Iran simply cannot be permitted to fulfill a dream of imperial rule in a region of such importance to the rest of the world. And then the most definitive of them all, I mean, we've got a whole bunch of quotes here, but is Norman Podhoretz, who was the longtime editor of Commentary and was a senior political advisor to Rudy Giuliani in his Republican campaign for the presidency, who, by the way, all the experts said was going to be the nominee. Here's what Podhoretz said. He's talking about Iran, none of the alternatives to military action, negotiations, sanctions, provoking an internal insurrection, can possibly work. They're all ways of evading the terrible choice we have to make, which is either to let Iran get the bomb or to bomb them. We've got 3 carriers in the region and a lot of submarines. It would take 5 minutes. You'd wake up one morning and the strikes would have been ordered and carried out during the night. All the president has to do is say go.
Yeah. He's also the guy who admitted that, well, yes, if we did this, it would unleash a wave of anti-Americanism around the world that would make our current situation look like a walk in the park.
Right.
But anyway, let's go ahead and do it.
Yes. Very sad.
Let me ask you this. Do you have in there in your Iran section, do you have any Bill Kristol quotes about how the Iranian people want to be bombed so they can take the opportunity to rise up, overthrow their government, and install an America-friendly dictatorship?
Well, let me read you a couple of Kristol quotes that we do have. We have to be ready. This is in 2006, July 19th, and then he had another quote the week later. And in the Weekly Standard, we have to be ready to use military force against Iran. We have to stop them from getting nuclear weapons. We can try diplomacy. I'm not hopeful about that. We have to be ready to use force. And then he says, the following week, we might consider a military strike against Iranian nuclear facilities. Why wait? Does anyone think a nuclear Iran can be contained? That the current regime will negotiate in good faith? It would be easier to act sooner rather than later. Yes, there would be repercussions, and they would be healthy ones, showing a strong America that has rejected further appeasement.
Oh, man, that guy really is a piece of work, that Bill Kristol.
Yes.
And you know what's funny about him, too? Glenn Greenwald wrote this thing all about how Irving Kristol and I think it's Abe Rosenthal over at the New York Times are buddies, and their sons are buddies, and that here's this guy who's never been wrong or anything. He keeps getting promoted simply through sheer nepotism.
Yes, it's the old Peter principle. People get promoted to the position of their incompetence. That's good.
I like that one. Hey, now, let me ask you, in this entire book of experts, do you have anybody who actually got it right who counts as an expert?
Well, it's interesting you should ask that. We did find one expert who got it right, and we don't like to, that's a sort of surprise, and we save it to the end of the book, and we do give it away. It's that we put it in the epilogue, and it's a surprise who it is. It was in an interview that was conducted at the American Enterprise Institute, which we call the Rival Institute to our Institute of Expertology. And you want me to tell you who it is?
Actually, I got the clip right here. You want me to play it?
Pardon me? Oh, but you have the clip. Well,
I have the clip. I'll play it right now if you like.
Great.
All right, here it is, everybody. The one person who got it right about Iraq, but did not, by definition, exclude themselves from the category of expert. Here it comes.
Do you think that the U.S. or UN forces should have moved into Baghdad?
No.
Why not?
Because if we'd gone to Baghdad, we would have been all alone. There wouldn't have been anybody else with us. It would have been a U.S. occupation of Iraq. None of the Arab forces that were willing to fight with us in Kuwait were willing to invade Iraq. Once you got to Iraq and took it over and took down Saddam Hussein's government, then what are you going to put in its place? That's a very volatile part of the world, and if you take down the central government in Iraq, you can easily end up seeing pieces of Iraq fly off. Part of it the Syrians would like to have to the west. Part of eastern Iraq the Iranians would like to claim, fought over for 8 years. In the north, you've got the Kurds, and if the Kurds spin loose and join with the Kurds in Turkey, then you threaten the territorial integrity of Turkey. It's a quagmire if you go that far and try to take over Iraq. The other thing was casualties. Everyone was impressed with the fact that we were able to do our job with as few casualties as we had. But for the 146 Americans killed in action and for their families, it wasn't a cheap war. And the question for the president, in terms of whether or not we went on to Baghdad and took additional casualties in an effort to get Saddam Hussein, was how many additional dead Americans is Saddam worth? And our judgment was not very many, and I think we got it right.
Oh, boy, oh, boy. Is that just the definition of irony, or what?